This is a man pushed to desperation, making one final attempt to preserve his royal identity before his brother, Prince William, removes it entirely. The British monarchy has endured wars, abdications, and centuries of scandal. Yet now, in February 2026, a crisis is erupting within palace walls so explosive and constitutionally profound that even veteran royal historians are struggling to find language strong enough to describe it. Prince William has issued a directive, not a request, a directive. It calls for a full, Crown-certified DNA audit of Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, the child Harry claims as his son, and the child Westminster now refuses to formally acknowledge without independent verification. This story is layered. It involves sealed memoranda, financial transfers routed through shell companies, MI6 analysts, and a 72-page legal dossier Harry's team believed would settle the matter once and for all. Instead, it triggered a constitutional firestorm, one threatening to fracture the royal family in ways unseen for over a century. Before we continue, leave a comment. Is Prince William safeguarding the monarchy, or is this a brother weaponizing bureaucracy? We'll be reading every response. The file that sparked a war. On the morning of February 12th, gray, subdued, and fitting, Buckingham Palace released a formal statement. The wording was cautious, deliberate, impeccably measured. But beneath the polished royal language, the message was unmistakable. Prince William had officially declined to validate a private DNA report submitted by Prince Harry. Pause, and let that register. Harry did not simply appear and assert that his children were royal. He assembled a legal team. He commissioned scientific testing. He compiled a 72-page package and formally submitted it to Clarence House. According to reports, that dossier included a DNA analysis conducted by a California laboratory confirming Harry's paternity of Archie with a probability exceeding 999%, a sworn affidavit from Meghan Markle outlining her pregnancy timeline between 2018 and 2019, ultrasound records from a private OB/GYN in Beverly Hills, a copy of Archie's birth certificate, a notarized declaration from a hospital staff member. The objective was unmistakable: re-establish Archie and Lilibet as formal members of the royal family, clear a pathway for their reinstatement within the royal line of succession and its associated privileges, and do so at a moment when Harry has reportedly expressed interest in returning to the UK following his very public and deeply painful separation from Meghan. This was not informal. It was not emotional. It was not impulsive. It was structured, legal, professionally coordinated, and William rejected it, not gently, not hesitantly, but clinically, forensically. Within hours of receiving the 72-page submission, William reconvened the Sovereign Succession Security Council, the SSSC. This is no ceremonial committee. It is a dormant advisory body composed of legal authorities, intelligence specialists, and royal archivists. Its sole mandate, verifying lineage integrity during disputes. The mere fact that William activated it tells you how seriously and how skeptically the palace is treating Harry's claims. Then came what insiders are calling the royal freeze. William's office issued an official suspension of Archie's reintegration process, citing, and this phrase may define the entire crisis, significant irregularities and unresolved contradictions. Irregularities? Contradictions? That's where the bloodline files emerge. The bloodline files. 6 red flags the palace refuses to overlook. Palace insiders have now disclosed the foundation of William's objections. An internal memo, now widely referred to as the bloodline files, lists 6 specific concerns. These are not tabloid whispers. These are formally documented points of contention from the heir to the British throne himself. Red flag 1, the pregnancy photographs. Multiple images of Meghan Markle taken during her pregnancy reportedly display dramatically different abdominal sizes on the same date. Not subtle variations, dramatic ones. The palace's media forensics team reviewed these photographs using timestamp verification. Their conclusion: differences in camera angles or clothing alone do not sufficiently explain what appears in the images. The implication, uncomfortable though it may be, is that some photographs may have featured a prosthetic bump. In 2019, that suggestion was widely dismissed as a misogynistic and racially motivated smear. And for many, it still is. But within palace walls, the discussion never fully disappeared. Now, it has been formally reopened. Red flag 2, the absence of royal medical documentation. When Catherine, Princess of Wales, gave birth to George, Charlotte, and Louis, there were signed confirmations from royal obstetricians, Sir Marcus Setchell and Dr. Guy Thorpe Beeston. These documents were filed with the Royal Archives, a clear, verifiable medical trail. No such documentation exists for Archie's birth. No signed confirmation from royal physicians. No hospital discharge records filed within the Royal Archives. Nothing. Red flag 3, the amended birth certificate. Perhaps the most striking detail. Archie's birth certificate was amended nearly a month after its initial issuance. The revision replaced Rachel Meghan Markle with Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. Meghan's team insisted the amendment was a correction directed by the palace. William's camp, however, has described it as both unprecedented and unexplained, pointedly noting that Catherine's full legal name has remained intact on all 3 of her children's birth certificates. So why was Archie's documentation handled differently? Red flag 4, the Windsor Castle photograph. The first public image of Archie at Windsor Castle has been quietly examined for years. Lighting specialists have claimed the photograph appeared to be taken using studio-grade equipment. According to insiders, palace staff described the composition as more vogue than royalty. Traditional press photographers were completely excluded from the event. Was this simply a private couple choosing to control the narrative around their newborn, something many parents might reasonably do? Or was there a specific reason the customary royal press presence was deliberately kept out? Red flag 5. The $499,900 transfer. In May 2019, 5 days before the palace publicly announced Archie's birth, a wire transfer totaling $499,900 was traced from Archwell LLC to a discreet reproductive medical center near the Mexican border. This facility is known in elite medical circles for coordinating surrogacy arrangements, particularly for high-net-worth international clients seeking absolute confidentiality. The funds moved through 2 shell intermediaries, one in Delaware, another in the Cayman Islands, before arriving in a numbered Mexican account tied to a corporate holding entity called Forscana Biomed S.A. We want to pause here and ask you directly, does this financial trail raise concerns for you? Or do you believe there's a completely innocent explanation? Share your thoughts in the comments. Red flag 6, the encrypted annotations. Former MI6 cyber analysts, now operating under the palace's custodian unit, reportedly discovered encrypted notes attached to the Archwell transaction. Those notes referenced a non-disclosure agreement between the clinic and an unnamed third party. Investigators formally flagged these annotations as indicators of what they describe as a concealed gestational agreement. In plain terms, an NDA surrounding a potential surrogacy, 6 red flags, 6 unresolved issues, and 1 decision that has placed 2 children at the center of what may be the most constitutionally significant dispute in modern royal history, the California lab, and the email that changed everything. If the bloodline files were the spark, what followed was fuel on the fire. At the core of Harry's DNA submission sits Horizon Gene Diagnostics, a boutique genetic testing firm based in Santa Barbara, California, less than 30 minutes from the Sussex's Montecito estate. According to Harry's legal representatives, A DNA test was conducted there in mid-January 2026, yielding that extraordinary conclusion: a 99.999% probability that Harry is Archie's biological father. On paper, that should have ended the matter. It did not. William's camp immediately questioned the integrity of the process. Palace officials pointed out that the DNA samples were hand-delivered by a non-neutral party, reportedly Meghan's former chief of staff, rather than through a verified, tamper-proof chain of custody. Additionally, Horizon Gene Diagnostics is neither accredited by the UK's Royal College of Pathologists nor certified under ISO 17025, the international standard governing forensic laboratories handling legal evidence. Sources within the Sovereign Succession Security Council were even more direct. One insider stated that the entire operation appeared custom-designed to produce a result, not uncover a truth. Then came the revelation no one anticipated. A leaked internal email from the office of the attorney overseeing the submission, Oregon-based solicitor Douglas Hall, known for handling transnational parental rights cases, was obtained by a major British newspaper. The email, dated January 22, 2026, carried a subject line that sent shockwaves. "We need optics, not science." According to reports, the message read, "If Horizon Gene won't fast-track the results by the 26th, locate a partner lab willing to certify pre-analysis validity. It doesn't have to be bulletproof. It just needs to appear unimpeachable. We need optics, not science. The palace will only review the paperwork." Hall did not deny sending the email. Instead, he issued a carefully worded statement claiming the message had been taken out of context during preparations for procedural filing. That explanation has persuaded almost no one within palace circles. As if that weren't enough, a timeline later released by William's office revealed that the DNA sample was flown from Los Angeles to London on January 24th. But a duplicate sample was also dispatched to a second laboratory in Zurich, a lab that ultimately never received payment and therefore never conducted the analysis. Palace investigators interpret this as evidence of a prearranged fallback strategy, parallel proof channels being constructed in anticipation of rejection. Even more damaging, the Zurich lab's internal records logged the sample as practice use only. No formal chain of custody was established there either. As one senior Home Office official privately remarked, "This doesn't read like a straightforward paternity confirmation. It reads like the final act of a Netflix documentary. MI6, a mystery clinic, and the moon bump revisited." And if you think the story stops there, it doesn't, because this is where the intelligence community enters the frame. A classified intelligence assessment authored by former MI6 operatives, encrypted under the codename File Sigma, has now been reactivated by the palace's custodian unit. Its subject heading reads, "Disruption of Lineal Continuity, Sussex Asset Irregularities, 2019 to 2023. At the center of the report is that $499,900 wire transfer we referenced earlier. But the broader intelligence landscape surrounding it is even more concerning than the raw financial data alone suggests. The recipient clinic, its name still officially redacted, operates under a medical licensing structure that does not require public registration of gestational carriers. It facilitates offshore births through anonymous egg donors and customized fertility programs. And the money trail, it moves through shell corporations deliberately structured to obscure the origin of funds. According to a source familiar with the custodian unit's findings, the internal conclusion was blunt. This was not a routine prenatal appointment. It was a comprehensive gestational contract, executed 5 days before Archie's birth was publicly announced. Alongside the financial intelligence, the palace commissioned a private visual reconstruction of the 2019 pregnancy photographs. 3 images of Meghan, all dated March 5, 2019, depict her attending 2 separate London engagements on the same day, one at King's College, the other at a charity roundtable. In the first image, the pregnancy bump appears pronounced, taut, and positioned low. In the second, captured only hours later, the midsection looks noticeably smaller and higher, with what analysts described as visible creasing beneath her coat, consistent with synthetic material folding. A 3D depth mapping analysis ordered by the palace reportedly concluded no organic pregnancy could demonstrate such variation in mass and curvature within a 6-hour interval. A former royal staff member, speaking anonymously, offered an additional observation. The maternity suite at Frogmore Cottage remained immaculate. No visible delivery preparation. No postnatal supplies. Not even a breast pump. It felt staged, the source said. Now, and this is critical, we are not asserting these conclusions are accurate. What we are stating is that the palace considers them credible enough to warrant action, and action is precisely what is unfolding. The royal frieze and Diana's shadow. On the evening of February 11th, 2026, a velvet-bound dossier labeled Lineage 1A urgent seal was hand-delivered from Buckingham Palace to the office of the Royal Register. Inside was a formal directive signed by Prince William, ordering an immediate lockdown of the royal household register. The order suspended any amendments, additions, or validations concerning Archie and Lilibet's royal status. The memo described the measure as a full-spectrum bloodline review. To enforce it, William reportedly invoked Clause 6 of the Sovereign Child Declaration Act, an obscure yet legally binding statute first enacted in 1837. The clause grants the heir to the throne authority to suspend claims of royal lineage in cases involving ambiguity, disruption, or forensic dispute. Former royal archivist Edward Liddale referred to it as the nuclear button of lineage control, confirming it has not been activated in over a century. The practical consequences are profound. Archie and Lilibet's profiles were manually removed from the royal household's active digital registry. Any titles, including the prince and princess designations to which they technically became entitled upon King Charles's accession, are, in practice, being withheld, and overshadowing it all is Diana's estate. Princess Diana's revised 1996 will specifies that her estate be divided equally between her sons and, in time, their legitimate descendants. The Diana Trust is estimated at more than £22 million. With the Sussex children's legitimacy currently suspended, sources confirm that William has quietly consulted the trustees, exploring the possibility of placing the children's allocation into escrow pending completion of the review. Harry's response, relayed through a close confidant, was deeply personal. Diana would never have allowed bloodline paranoia to override her love for her grandchildren. She believed in hearts, not birth certificates. It is reportedly one of the most emotionally charged statements Harry has made throughout this ordeal. Yet, palace advisors remain unmoved. Lord Pembroke, an unofficial legal advisor to the Sovereign Council, was quoted as saying, "This is not a matter of sentiment. It is a matter of fiduciary duty until legitimacy is established." And so Diana's shadow stretches across it all, over the sons she adored, the grandchildren she will never know, and the monarchy she herself often viewed with skepticism. The Royal Commission and the countdown to verdict. On February 12, 2026, the Royal Commission for Lineal Ethics and Continuity, the RLEC, became fully operational. The body has existed since 1975 under Royal Charter, but has never before been activated so publicly or so completely. Its 7-member panel includes 2 senior lords from the House of Lords Ethics Committee, a retired Privy Council judge, the Royal Archivist General, a constitutional historian from Oxford, the Archbishop of Canterbury's legal representative, and 1 former intelligence officer, whose identity remains undisclosed. Their mandate is clear: to determine whether the lineage of Archie and Lilibet satisfies the minimum legal, moral, and ceremonial standards required for standing within the royal household. The Commission has already requested all versions of Archie and Lilibet's birth certificates, Meghan Markle's travel logs in the year preceding both births, surveillance records pertaining to Frogmore Cottage, redacted copies of Archwell's financial transfers. The machinery of monarchy is now fully engaged, and the verdict clock is ticking. Royal historian Fiona Travers summarized it plainly. This isn't merely about DNA. It's about trust, tradition, and the survival of monarchy in an era defined by digital manipulation. If the RLEC rules against Archie and Lilibet, the consequences would be seismic. They would be permanently struck from the register. All claims to titles would be legally voided. Future participation in royal life, state visits, jubilee ceremonies, hereditary functions would be prohibited, and allocations from Diana's trust could either be nullified or redirected. Even more dramatically, some commission members reportedly view Harry's actions as a potential misrepresentation of lineage for institutional gain. If that interpretation prevails, Harry himself could face disciplinary repercussions, possibly even the removal of his HRH styling. So let us ask you directly, if the RLEC rules against the children, should that decision stand? Or does this cross a boundary no institution, not even the monarchy, should be permitted to cross? Meghan fights back. On the morning of February 12th, Meghan Markle's legal team filed a preemptive countermotion in the UK High Court. The filing accused Prince William and the Privy Council of executing what it described as a custodial coup disguised as a lineage investigation. The legal strategy was precise. First, the children are dual citizens of the United Kingdom and the United States, with protections under international family law. Second, the Royal Household Register, the filing argued, is not a statutory civil authority, and therefore holds no legal power to determine identity or legitimacy. And critically, the removal or suspension of Archie and Lilibet's names constitutes institutional erasure. Included in the submission were photographs from Archie's birthday celebration in Montecito, along with a sworn statement from Tyler Perry affirming that Meghan carried, delivered, and raised both children as any mother would, under extraordinary public scrutiny and hostility. At the same time, Meghan, who had remained publicly silent throughout the RLEC proceedings, was preparing a recorded interview at the Montecito estate. The plan: release it directly on YouTube and Instagram the moment the commission announces its verdict. Sources close to her legal team say the interview will include an emotional defense of her motherhood, a detailed recounting of her pregnancy and childbirth experiences, and a direct claim that the investigation is rooted in misogyny, class bias, and institutional gatekeeping. In the recording, she reportedly states, "I carried my children. I gave birth to them. And now they're being erased." This isn't about lineage. It's about power, fear, and control. The palace has not publicly responded to the High Court filing. Their silence is deliberate. The institution does not react impulsively. It calculates. A family divided. Within the royal family, the fractures are no longer subtle. Princess and reportedly stands fully behind William's position and is advocating for an independent royal medical tribunal. Prince Edward is said to feel uneasy about the tone of the proceedings, yet believes the monarchy cannot afford to be caught off guard again. Queen Camilla has remained publicly silent, though she was allegedly overheard during a closed-door meeting remarking, "The crown must rise above its scandal." King Charles, even amid ongoing health challenges, is a presence deeply felt in this crisis. A sealed private memo written by Charles in December 2025, weeks before his latest health evaluation, has now been unsealed at William's request. Its subject line: Sussex Children and the Threshold of Trust. The contents remain classified. However, insiders suggest it may contain preliminary royal consent to deny hereditary recognition to any child not born under verified and observable conditions. A royal aide familiar with the document described Charles as profoundly conflicted. As a grandfather, he felt love. As sovereign, he felt duty. Ultimately, he deferred to William's judgment. As for Harry, sources say he is both furious and heartbroken, feeling betrayed not only by his brother, but by the institution he once considered home. A palace insider described a recent call between the brothers as brief, tense, and glacial. There is an undeniable tragedy beneath the constitutional language. These are brothers, sons of the same mother. The two young men who walked behind her coffin down a London street, watched by the entire world. And now they stand on opposite sides of the most defining question modern monarchy has faced. Is blood enough to make you royal, or must the crown acknowledge you first? The travel manifest and Harry's final gamble. In the final days before the commission's verdict, one more revelation surfaced, perhaps the most emotionally charged detail yet. A sealed travel manifest leaked by Heathrow Customs officials lists a private jet scheduled to land on the morning of February 14th, 2026, Valentine's Day. The registered passengers: one adult male under the name Henry Mountbatten Windsor, two minor children listed as dependents. Departure: Venice Airport, California. No Meghan, no security entourage, no press. Palisades have neither confirmed nor denied the document, but insiders speculate that Prince Harry may be returning to the United Kingdom alone with Archie and Lilibet to stand before the monarchy in person. Royal correspondent Olivia Hart described it as an extraordinary gesture, possibly Harry's final attempt to demonstrate that the children belong not only by blood, but by presence. Others are more cautious. This family plays chess, not checkers, one palace insider warned. It could be misdirection. But if it is real, if Harry is truly on that plane with his children, flying back to a country that has questioned them, toward a brother who has frozen their names from its most sacred records, then it may be one of the most quietly devastating acts of love a father can make. To show up, to refuse to vanish, to demand to be seen. The verdict and what it means for all of us. As of February 13th, 2026, the RLEC's final report, assembled after 6 days of reviewing birth documentation, international financial records, and private testimony, rested in the hands of three figures: Prince William, Princess, and the Lord Chancellor. The potential outcomes are as stark as the crisis itself. If the commission rules in favor of Archie and Lilibet, their names will be restored to the royal register. They will be permitted to use their prince and princess titles. They will be formally inserted into the line of succession. They will qualify for disbursements from Diana's trust. Two children's names would be written back into royal history. But if the commission rules against them, the consequences will be permanent. They would be formally and irrevocably excluded from royal status. All legal and ceremonial claims would be nullified. Any public or media use of their titles could prompt legal action. Prince Harry himself could face disciplinary measures for alleged misrepresentation. And a precedent would be established, cold, definitive, and irreversible, that the monarchy's definition of legitimacy supersedes biology, sworn testimony, and even paternal love. Royal historian Dr. Miles Grayson summarized it bluntly: the monarchy has survived scandal, exile, and abdication. But a falsified royal bloodline, if that is what this proves to be, would provoke a public reckoning unlike anything in modern history. Polling released on the evening of February 12 showed that 62% of UK citizens support the RLEC review. 47% believe the children's titles should remain suspended. Yet 41% sympathize with Harry, viewing William's actions as bureaucratic severity bordering on cruelty. Globally, hashtags such as hashtag Archie's Truth, hashtag Bloodline Files, and hashtag Diana Wood have trended across major platforms. But so has hashtag Crown Over Chaos. And that tension between the emotional heart of a family and the rigid legal framework of monarchy is exactly what this crisis compels us to confront. This is not merely a story about titles, inheritance funds, or disputed laboratory reports. It is about what institutions owe to the human beings within them. It is about brothers whose sense of duty and sense of love now appear irreconcilable. It is about two children who chose none of this, who were born, cherished, named, and celebrated, and who now stand at the center of a constitutional judgment that could define them for the rest of their lives. When that verdict arrives, we will be watching, and we want you watching with us. So tell us in the comments right now, where do you stand? Is Prince William acting as guardian of an institution that must rise above personal sentiment? Or is he a brother who has allowed institutional authority to eclipse something more human? Is Meghan a mother fiercely defending her children against an unjust system? Or are the questions being raised legitimate concerns that demand clear answers? And here is the final question we leave you with. In a world where DNA science can determine paternity with near absolute certainty, should a monarchy, any monarchy, possess the authority to override that science with its own definition of legitimacy? Share your thoughts below. Send this video to someone who needs to understand what may be unfolding behind palace walls. And subscribe, because when the verdict is delivered, you'll want to know immediately. The countdown has begun.